Mike Sando of The Athletic, every year he releases his quarterback tiers. He gets 50 executive coaches, GMs in the NFL, and they vote on every single veteran quarterback. They put them into they have a tier 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This year, their rankings go as Patrick Mahomes is the number 1 quarterback in the NFL. Joe Burrow's number 2. Josh Allen's number 3. That's your tier 1 group. Your tier 2 group is Lamar Jackson, Matt Stafford, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, and making the highest debut ever coming off a rookie season, CJ Stroud at number 8. Of the tier votes, he had 3 tier 3 votes, 2 tier 2 votes, and 35 tier 2 votes, and 12 tier 1 votes. So at least 12 people in this anonymous survey thought that CJ Stroud was one of the best quarterbacks, absolutely, in the NFL last year. A couple of the quotes here that stood out. These are all anonymous, so you get a little bit more, I think, clear answers when you start reading through these. Yeah. We'll go through like the Anthony Richardson one tomorrow because it's tough. It's a tough
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
But one of the anonymous execs, GMs, or coaches said this guy is a freaking baller. And when he watched the style of play, there's a lot of Joe Burrow when Joe is healthy. This dude has cojones. I
like that.
I do like the Joe Burrow comp for CJ Stroud.
I like that you can't go 2 sentences without going, this guy has cojones.
Yeah, you just gotta get in there. But you always have the counterpoint, which I think is fair. And this head coach who voted in this said, I'm sure some people gave him a 1, but he's got to prove it. The Baltimore game, when he had to throw, he couldn't do it. He needs to prove he can do it in big games against really good offenses. I do think that is the most fair criticism of CJ Stroud from last year is the Jets game, the Ravens game at the end of the year, and just how much he and the offense struggled in a big way and just could not overcome a very good defense. And Tank Dell being out was definitely a big part of this. And I think that was a fine excuse for him. But what they've done offensively, between Diggs, Tank being healthy, adding Mixon, keeping Schultz, all these moves they've made on offense that, assuming the offensive line is healthy, which it is right now, there really is no excuse for CJ Stroud to take a step back as a quarterback in 2024.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think when you see CJ Stroud, tier 2, number 8 quarterback, I think for a lot of people, at least locally, because locally we talk about him as, name all the quarterbacks you would take over CJ Stroud, and you get to the top 3 that are in tier 1. You get to Lamar Jackson, and then that's where most people go CJ Stroud, or they even put him above Lamar.
Yeah,
and so I think seeing him at 8 initially, you're like, wait, really? That seems low. And then, credit to Mike Sando, just the first sentence, just to kind of sweep the leg on that, maybe the Houston fan local bias that we have of Stroud surpasses Herbert for the highest tier debut coming off a rookie season. So it's immediately, no, this is just how the voting base for this column works, where that quote that you read from the head coach, where you need to see it. He has all that you would want to see to be a number 1 in that number 1 tier. But he only did it for one season, and I think the fact that right above him at number 7 is a guy like Aaron Rodgers. I think that goes to show the fact that Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford are both above them and have a higher voting, or I guess Stafford has a much higher voting average than Stroud, where Stafford is closer to being in tier 1 than he is to CJ Stroud. I think that says that they value the veteran and the longevity in this.
Yeah, I do. I will say I think that the quarterbacks that are in front of him, Rodgers is a tough situation because he didn't play last year. He played 4 snaps.
No,
he was not coming off, his best year. He was really good, but he had a downward trend, and then he went right back up when he did the back-to-back MVPs. But it's like, what's he going to be in New York in a new system? So it was interesting looking at his tier voting. He got like the tier 4 votes, which is basically guys that like you probably need to replace very soon. By definition, what they say here is a tier 4 quarterback could be an unproven player, not enough information, or a veteran who ideally would not start all 17 games. The fact that 2 people in the NFL tried to put Aaron Rodgers in that group, I think is wild.
Yeah.
Like they're basically saying they're trying to put him in a category with Deshaun Watson and Jacoby Brissett and Justin Fields. Like that to me is, he was hurt. You can't do that. But I'm surprised Rodgers is in front of CJ.
I think 3 is the lowest you can go with Rodgers.
Yeah.
I think 2 and below CJ in that kind of Dak Prescott, Jared Goff tier.
Yeah.
Is probably maybe above Goff, behind Dak is probably where mentally you'd put him.
Yeah. But Stafford, I don't have a problem with, though. I think Matt Stafford is a great quarterback. I mean, I think that the Rams, when I look at the NFC this year, I'm like, okay, if it's not going to be the 49ers, then who? Because it just seems unlikely, right, that we're just going to see another Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go against the grain and against the, the betting favorites to go to the Super Bowl, then you're going to pick not the 49ers. Like the Rams is where I lean, even without Aaron Donald. Like I just like what they have on offense with Stafford and with Sean McVay, their coach. You have Puka Nacua, who will be healthy, not too long as the season starts. You have Cooper Kupp. Kyron Williams, their running back's going to be out 4 weeks, but they brought in Blake Corum from Michigan, who I really like. And frankly, like, wouldn't be shocked if Kyron Williams just like loses his job essentially in the first couple weeks. And Blake Corum's like the big rookie star at the running back position. So I like the Rams a lot this year.
Yeah,
I don't have any issue with Matt Stafford being in front of CJ Stroud.
I don't have an issue with Stafford being ahead of Stroud. I just think it's interesting that how fast and how hard I think the average view on Stafford has swung just in his time with LA. When he got to LA, there was, and the year they won the Super Bowl, there's talk of, well, we haven't actually seen him win playoff games. He hasn't actually done this
because he'd barely been in playoff games.
Yeah, because he'd barely played in playoff games, and obviously the Detroit Lions of it all, until very recently, that was a good enough excuse of being like, yeah, you're on the Lions, you weren't going to play in very many big games. And how it's flipped from questioning whether he is a guy that can win you a Super Bowl to now be top 5 in a list like this, where even last year he played well, but going into last year there are questions about his arm, and because he missed so much of 2022 with I think he had elbow and back injuries.
Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of like, oh, okay, we're not quite there on Stafford. And then now to have him, he puts in a great healthy year last year, and now he's back to, he's the top 5 guy. That to me is just an interesting long term of his career, of how he was probably underrated for so long, and now I think he's being properly rated because there's really no other way you can rate him.
Yeah,